Hello, everybody. Welcome to our program today. My name is Dr. Chidi. I'm reaching you from Toronto, Canada. Today is a very, very special uh, program for me. Very special because this is one interview that I've looked forward to in a very, very long time. I am particularly interested in what is going on in Anambra State. I'm not from Anambra State. I'm an Igbo man, an unapologetic Igbo man. And even though I'm not from Anambra State, but a lot of my life, a lot of what I've become today was molded in Anambra State. So much so that my wife is from Anambra State. So I am so passionate about Anambra State. That is why I am particularly interested in what is going on in Anambra State. And my guest today, whom I'm going to bring very shortly, sorry that we announced this, we didn't give it a long enough publicity, but a lot of you are going to watch the video after. But my guest today is someone that I have high hopes in him, his ability to bring a difference in Anambra State. We do not have the same party affiliation, but this is somebody that I am willing to vouch for, and that's why I really, really pleaded with him to come on our platform so that I can showcase him to the people who need to know about him. Now, before I bring him in, I need you guys to understand, because you'll be like, Chidi, why, what is so special about Anambra State? Look, Anambra State is in the center of what happens in Igbo land. If you hear that Igbo people travel all over the place, go and check how many of those people that are traveling. Chances are that the greater percentage of those people settled in that area as Igbo people are from Anambra State. Anambra State is there is no way you can contest that Anambra, the per capita income of the people in Anambra is highest in the whole of Igbo land. That's where you have the biggest billionaires. But let me not bore you with so much of these stories. You'll get to understand as I speak more with my guest. So my guest tonight is none other than a candidate in the forthcoming governorship elections in Anambra State, Mr. Valentine Ozigbo. Mr. Val, you're welcome.
Hello, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, depends on where you're watching from. Nice to be here. Thank you so much, Dr. Chidi.
Yes, Val, it's good to have you here. I've looked forward to this. Please, I know what I feel about Anambra State, and it gives me goose pimples because I went to school in Anambra State. I did my primary, I did my secondary education there, and so like I understand Anambra very well, but some people don't get it. They don't understand. So I want to hear from you. This is where I want to start. Paint a picture for me of the Anambra that you know. What is it? Sell Anambra to somebody who doesn't know about Anambra State.
I have to be very careful here, Dr. Chidi, because if you really, really want to go deep about Anambra, you may end up attracting more envy and jealousy and all of that. So I'm usually very careful what I say. However, now that you've asked, I actually sincerely believe that the black man will not have their dignity restored. We are not going to be able to change our narrative positively without an active input and participation from the people of Anambra. And it's coming from both historical, philosophical, ideological, and governance perspectives. If you want to understand this, go to Exodus 14, go back to Numbers 26, and read about the people of Israel, the Israelites. The journey about the 12 tribes and how God is the seventh son, and how
Sorry,
every
Mr. Val, there's distortion that I'm hearing from them. I don't know if it's from the mic or something, but there's this.
let me see. I don't know. Let me just 1 second. Give me.
Okay. So, guys, he's going to fix his audio and get back to us. This is a very important interview, so I don't want us to miss anything that he's saying. Okay, he's back now.
Is it better? I don't know if it's better now.
It is better now. It's better now.
Okay.
Go ahead, sir.
So if you actually do a lot of introspection, study, analysis, research, you come to certain conclusions that Anambra and the entirety of the Igbo race, they're actually part of those special people God has not just called by name, but blessed immeasurably. And you will see this. That's why when I talk about the Israelites, forget about what may be going on today, but just look over time and hear their history, what they've gone through. Still today, they are about the most impactful in the world because despite a small number population compared to the rest of the world, it's not surprising that 32% of Nobel Prize winners are Jews. It's not surprising that when you talk about America, the biggest country on the earth, and you hear things like the Jews control America. May not be control in that sense, but you see a lot of impact that they make there. And so what that tells me is that what the Jews represent for the rest of the world or Western world is what the Igbos are meant to represent for the Black world, for the Black nation. And so it's a failure of us to do the needful that has actually kind of slowed us down from catching up with the rest of the world. So there's a huge burden. And Anambra has always been the headship of the Igbos. And if you go back in time, you will see a proof of this from the days of the Ibuku bronze and the Diokas, from technology era to the medicine era to the everything that has ever happened in this world. You will find the root in Anambra. And that's why you find someone like Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe inspiring what happened in the rest of Africa when it comes to liberation, independence, and even somebody as mighty as Nelson Mandela would learn his inspiration as coming from Nnamdi Azikiwe. And don't forget, when under the tutelage, Michael Okpara, who used to be the premier of Eastern Nigeria, and with the support of Sir Louis Odumegwu Ojukwu, who was chairing over 15 PLCs at that time, and basically started the Nigerian Lagos Stock Exchange that became Nigerian Stock Exchange. And with their collaboration, Southeast became the fastest growing in the world. If you go into the literal works of Chinua Achebe and the likes, you go even into the spiritual world and see that the only saint in the Catholic Church is in the West Africa, is from Anambra State. You go into the business world, you go into the, name it, just name any world, even in the educational world. So what it tells you, first, to recognize how valuable this small state has been and the Southeast has been, because sometimes when we talk about this don't we forget that Enugu used to be part of Anambra. Enugu was the capital of Anambra. Even some part of even the Imo and Co, they will derive their roots from Anambra. You hear about so I was talking about these Israelites. I didn't end it up because if you go to Aguleri today, you see a place they call Obu God. That's where this same God we're talking about in the Bible came through Eri, the son of God, settled in Aguleri. That's why it's Aguleri, Umuleri, Oreri, all these areas, Nri, and Kingdom. So these names and the culture, the tradition, and some have even gone further to conduct a DNA test to prove scientifically the identity we share with the Jews. So what I'm saying to you is that we are special. And among the Southeasterners, the Igbos in particular, because there are some Igbos that are in the Southeast and in the South, in in different parts of Nigeria, you'll see that Anambra indeed stands top. So Anambra is important, not just for the Anambra alone. It's important for the entirety of the Southeast and Igbo race, and of course Nigeria, and even beyond Nigeria, Africa. Beyond Africa, Black nation.
You see, and beyond the Black nation, the whole world. So you see that whoever, you know why I ask this? You see how critical it is, because whoever ends up being at the head of our affairs in Anambra State could actually be the head of our affairs in the whole world. that's how important it is.
When we get our acts right, yes.
Yeah. So thank you so much. I'm glad you've been able to say this. It's inexhaustible, because there's so much that can be said about Anambra State that makes it the envy of a lot of people. But it is what it is, as they say. It's not your fault. Now, having talked about Anambra State, and I see the passion that you have for Anambra State, who is Val? Let's get to know you. Who is Val Ozigbo?
I don't know. It's a long story, but let me keep it short. I consider myself a child of grace, somebody who honestly has witnessed manifestation of God's grace, because I can, in my entirety of my story, you find that there's hardly anything that I've ever done, that you won't see grace of God being manifest. And when we talk about grace of God, we know everybody lives by grace of God. Everything we do is by grace of God. But when you do so little and the results become so impactful, then you begin to see there is grace and there is grace. If there's anything like anybody who maybe God has blessed, especially, in fact, some people who, I won't tell you that I'm that spiritual, but yes, I fear God, I worship God, I praise Him, and I respect Him. But I've had encounters with people that will look at me and actually say to me, there's something special about you. And when I now remind them, I was born as seventh child on the 7th month, 1970, I said, maybe. So I don't know. Everything I've ever been, everything I've ever done from my growing up, my father, basically, who was headmaster, who was catechist, he groomed me in a manner that I can say to you that all I wanted to do was to make him proud, to do things to just not spoil the name, one headmaster, one catechist. And that took me to where I needed to learn how to become more hardworking, more disciplined, and also to fear God. And what I'm saying to you, why I'm taking time to explain this, is that anything else I have become stemming from this. And so when I was in the primary school, because I grew up in multiple villages, I was born in Omuamako, I started school in Akpo, went back to Amesi, and these are all local villages in Old Agwata region. And in all this, excellence has been my watchword, and pursuit of a certain philosophy, a culture of continuous improvement has been my anchor. And and this is how I eventually got to the top of the corporate ladder. So I was one of the best students in the primary school, same thing in secondary school. I studied accounting at the University of Nigeria, which is in the business faculty. I was the best student there. I also had my MBA at the University of Nigeria, Enugu campus, and that was in banking and finance. And then also eventually gained Chiefness Scholarship, went to England for my second master's and had distinction in MSc Finance. I also did my Global CEO program, which I did in 3 universities. I was elected the president of the class, which I am till today. I qualified as a chartered accountant, became a fellow of the Institute, a fellow of multiple other bodies, and a member of the Chartered of Directors of Nigeria. And I served in banking for over 17 years. Within my first, in fact, my stint as a copper was extremely impactful. I was in the export department, did a lot of big deals, and my bosses cried that I was leaving as a copper. I moved to Diamond Bank, and within 6 months in Diamond Bank, I become the best staff from Diamond Bank in Nigeria. On my 5th year, I hunted to become a branch manager in another bank. By my 7th year, I became a regional manager, and eventually rose to the level of GM, general manager, and was head of international banking at the time. And I was developing banks in different parts of the world. Despite the fact that in my first 30 years, I never traveled anywhere outside of Nigeria. But by the time I became a Achievement Scholar, I went to England for my second master's, came back and started working. And I started handling those international roles. I would visit up to 15 countries every single year. And you know what would mean to go to a foreign land and become an employer of labor, not an employee. So you sit down in China, you're interviewing Chinese, you sit down in India, interview Indians, sit down in the US, and all of these places to do big deals. And when you go to a foreign country for banking business, you are engaging either the president or the central bank governor at that level. So those were experiences that I had. And at some point, I became a teacher in banking. I taught over 2,000 bankers in Nigeria. When people get their teaching slots in GT, First Bank, UBA, they would invite me to be a special lecturer, a teacher. And such was the impact that I was now headhunted to become the CEO of Transcorp Hotels PLC, which I ran for 7 years. I took it from private to PLC, and it became the best business hotel in Africa, the Hilton in Abuja. And under my leadership, I was voted CEO of the Year twice in the world, in Greece and in Spain, in different years, before I became the president of Transcorp Group. But beyond all this we've done in the corporate world, I've done a couple of other things in the philanthropy, in the sports development, in the church, and all of that. So today, I am the biggest promoter of freestyle football in Africa. I started this championships in 2017. We've hosted the World Championship in Kenya last year. This year, I was in Algeria to host African Championship. Last year, I was in Cairo to host African Championship. So I'm the only Black person, the only non-executive director at the world body, World Freestyle Football Association. And when I also was the chairman of Unusual Praise, we did a lot of things, including starting up what we call Unusual Entrepreneurs. And today, it's one of the most impactful faith-based empowerment, activity. And I want to say that indeed, I am grateful to Almighty God, because it's not that I work that hard, but when I put in a little effort, He will usually astonish me with His blessing. Thank you.
Wow, that's a handful. The one that readily just strikes me, and I'm sure it strikes a lot of people, is when someone looks at your demeanor and the way you carry yourself, then it's placing it side by side with the head of Transcorp. It doesn't, it looks like, because when they talk about the person heading Transcorp, we're expecting to see one very big man who you can't even come close to. So it just looks like it is not you. So that's one of the things that really shocks me, but that is very commendable. The way you carry yourself is already an inspiration to so many people. The fact that all the things you have enumerated, you've been there, done that, for you to travel 15 countries in a year, and still have your head on your shoulder, for you to have interviewed, like you go into a place where people are begging to go there and find a job. When you go there and you're sitting in a table and interviewing people, and the government and all the people of that place are giving you recognition, it's a remarkable feat, and it's quite commendable. I know that this race for the governorship in Anambra State is something that you have tried to engage in before, and what would you say is convincing you that this time around it will be different?
Yes, in 2021, I hope you can hear me very well.
Yeah.
In 2021, it was a very interesting year in the life of Anambra. Basically, I got inspired.
Guys, just to let you know, we may be having some interruptions on the network from time to time. Like if someone calls his phone, it usually cuts off his network. So if it happens, I just want you to bear with us, and he'll be able to reconnect.
Are we still on? Yeah.
Okay, so you're back.
I hope. Yeah. Okay. So I was talking about what inspired me to go into politics. I went into Anambra race because of what I said to you earlier. Because I see Anambra as a special case. I see, I've been dying to see when the story of a Black man can change in this world. And I reached certain conclusions that Anambra is the game changer. We need to get it right to inspire the catalytic change that we expect. And so at 50, I started to quit what I was doing. I had one of the most, luxurious and most paying job you can find in Nigeria. But I quit that job to go into this race because of my conviction that there's something one can do to set a standard of what governance ought to be. And I decided to pick PDP as at that time. Despite how chaotic we know the primary can be, in that race we were over 21 people, and who were contesting to become a candidate of PDP in Anambra State. And but I wasn't perturbed. I wasn't perturbed that there were senators, House of Reps members, billionaires of all sorts who had way more money than I could ever imagine or think of. But I knew I had a special message to deliver. And then I am one person, I consider myself emotionally intelligent enough to be able to speak truth to myself and know my strengths and know my weaknesses. And so I worked hard to overcome those, and I became very close to the members of PDP in a very short period of time. And whenever you see any poll come out then, it was shocking to see that I'll be at 50% and the rest of the other contestants are sharing the 50%. So that boosted my confidence level, and I threw everything that I had to make sure I secured that seat. And so I became the candidate in a very celebrated, free, fair, transparent primary. And by the time we went into the main election, a number of things worked against us. Number one was there was a case of Chris Oba going to conduct another what Supreme Court finally called naming ceremony, and in that produced his brother Ugochukwu Oba as the candidate. And next thing, they've procured a fraudulent court judgment to affirm the brother, the candidate. It took us a lot of time, wasted a lot of resources. Imagine a primary that was done in June 2021, an election that was going to happen in November 2021. My name was unpublished as candidate in June, in July, in August, in September, until sometime in October. Basically 3 weeks to the election, that's when my name was published. And so we couldn't really do intense campaign the way we wanted to do so. Number two, we had a lot of internal betrayals. Within the PDP were people who were very envious of the fact that I won that primary, and they never forgave me. As far as they're concerned, why should anybody from the corporate world just come in and eat their lunch? And so there's no way they will not frustrate the effort. And they ganged up in a nice way, obviously, took money from the current governor today and did their bidding, and it worked out for them. And the third one was an intense denominational politics that worked to my disadvantage, both from the Anglican perspective and the Catholic perspective. And all of these, part of it was because Anambra people saw name, title, position as more important than character. For them, somebody has been central bank governor, a professor of economics, and somebody has been chief economic advisor to the president. And all of these government appointments really don't even show anything about the competency that will bring to bear in the private sector. However, it worked in the favor, and I came second in that election, despite all I've narrated here. But what I'm so excited about, what's happening differently, now going to your question, is that people have become extremely disappointed with what is going on. Extremely disappointed that they have a governor who does not even listen, does not care about the voice, opinion of anybody, who thinks he knows it all, who is extremely arrogant, and who believes that it's the only thing God has created in this world. Not in Anambra would you find such a person succeed as a good leader, because Anambra is such a Republican place where there are, imagine a state with the highest concentration of billionaires. So you've got to be able to be somebody who is emotionally intelligent, who is humble, empathetic, a good listener, to do well in Anambra. And so Soludo, unfortunately, does not have any of that. I can't have it because his arrogance is follow come, like our people call it. And that's the default position. And that takes us to why we are failing other most critical areas of governance, which is security. So what you find today is a case of a complete rejection of what is going on. If you put any poll and do that, I challenge you to do that. Go to your site, put any poll, whether from Anambra people or the rest of Igbo land, or even in fact the rest of Nigeria. Are you comfortable with what is going on in Anambra? You will hear no. You hear how an archbishop has been kidnapped up to today, no comment from the governor. How a lecturer was murdered 2 days ago in Oka, no comment. How Igwe Nibo was celebrating New Year Festival and about 12 people were murdered in Nibo next to Government House, not even up to 2 kilometers from Government House. And not even up to 1 kilometer, by the way. And guess what happened? He went into the shop, in the market, and was buying upper for women, and not even a visit to the stakeholders of Nibo. So all of this is going on, and if you talk about the institutions that are important in Anambra State, whether it's the church, whether it's the traditional rulers, whether it's the town unions, whether it's market leaders, you hardly find anybody who is comfortable. And so once a status quo is rejected, so people now start shifting their mind. So who next? And so one thing that has helped me the most so far is the fact that a lot of people who actually worked, for Soludo, who supported him, are in regret and saying they made a mistake, that this is the guy they would have gone for. And for them, they were following money, they were following incumbency of Governor Obia not leading, they were following many other things. However, they are in regret and saying they made a mistake. And so they see 2025 as an opportunity to correct that mistake. Secondly, was the fact that our own dear brother and former governor, Peter Obi, was in a race to become the next president of Nigeria in 2023. And what did Governor Soludo do? Fighting, disparaging, write a 9-page letter to basically say he wasn't in the race. He shouldn't even bother wasting his time. In fact, actually blaming our woes as Igbos on the fact that Peter Obi ran for the election. That's the arrogance in this gentleman. And why so? Because he wants to be the president himself and not Peter Obi. And what did I do? I left PDP to join Peter Obi as a special advisor. I followed him everywhere he went to. I supported him actively. and I pleaded with our people to support him. So this became another game changer that this gentleman was against what majority of people saw as a superior proposition. Peter Obi was by far the best option we had in that election. And if Soludo, as a governor, wasn't comfortable with that, the best he could have done was keep quiet and not necessarily throw tantrums out there. So all of these factors, and of course, the fact that I have a better promise. I'm not here to promise Anambra, Dubai, Taiwan. There's nothing like that. I'm here to promise Anambra Chawa. Means that Anambra is unique and special. Our model can actually be something that we can take to a level that will make everybody proud. And guess what? That even the rest of the world can be studying our model, not the other way around. If you look at it, Iba Boy, I wrote a book on that, and I'm happy to share a copy here. Iba Boy book that I wrote, Iba Boy was a game changer, and this is being studied in Harvard today. We can create our own model that will inspire the rest of Igbo land, Nigeria, and Africa, and not going to copy something that we know is an empty promise. That is, nothing anywhere close to what we should be. So in all this, to cut, not to go too long in this matter, I believe that Anambra people are united in, number one, rejecting what is where today, and number two, yearning for a better change that they know at this point in time.
All right. Sorry, we lost you a little bit there. There was some network issue, but you already warned me about it, and so it's okay. But let me even start in seeking to find out what you plan to bring to the table, what you plan to do better than every other person who might come and say, "Oh, I'm better at this thing more than you." What do you plan to do better? But let us start with telecommunications. You know that when it comes to power, telecommunications is one of the area where the federal government has a very, very tight grip on, that through the years it's been very difficult for state governors to have their way around it. How do you plan to combat this? Because it's a shame that in 2024 you are having this kind of network issue that we're having in Nigeria. So as the governor of Anambra State, what are you going to do about this?
Okay, before I go into those promises, I want to actually put out a caution here. What I find is when we're in this type of conversation, people usually shift their mind to the promises. They shift their mind to what is it going to do different? What is it coming to do? What is the vision? What is the manifesto? What is the blueprint? What is all of those stuff? And as if those are the most important considerations for leadership. It's not. They're important, but they're not the most important. I want us to really understand what we need to do to get the issue of leadership right in this part of the world. And I want to explain this carefully because it is that important. The reason why we are not catching up with the rest of the world, whether it's telecom, whether it's power, whether it's security, whether it's industrialization, whether it's technology, whatever you call it, is because of leadership issue, citizenship issue, and culture issue. I prefer to go to the root cause of these things than to talk about the symptoms of these things. Because if a wrong person, a wrong leader is coming to make all those promises, they become an empty promise. Just like I've just told you how Governor Soludo came and told Anambra people they're going to make Anambra, Dubai, Taiwan, only to get into power to tell them they are too illiterate to even attract the Dubai Taiwan. So let's be careful here. Let's ask a simple question first. How do we get the issue of leadership right in this part of the world? What are we supposed to do? And how it's because who you are is more important than what you're promising. If you are a lunatic, if you are a criminal, and you're giving me promises upon promises, what the hell am I doing with those promises? So the first thing I want to say is that let's ask, what kind of person do we need? Are you close to such a person, being such a person, compared to what we have today? Now, to get the issue of leadership, I consider 4 P's important: personality, the platform, the process, and then the promise. The personality part, for me, is like 50-60% of the factor because it's the most important. After all, our Bible says it's only when good people are in power that the people will understand. But when wicked people are in power, people will suffer. So you will see that being good, being a good, godly, righteous, even if you're not righteous, because God has a way of also qualifying those he calls. So what I'm submitting here today is seek you first a good person in leadership, and all these other things will be added onto it. And when we talk about personality, and that's where the issue of emotional intelligence comes in. Are you somebody who is authentic, who does not lie to himself, who understands his strengths and weaknesses, who is humble enough, who is a good listener, who is empathetic enough? That's the major consideration in leadership. Number 2, under what platform are you running? Is that a platform that is strategic, that can also be appealing to the people of the region, of the state? If, for instance, you mention a particular party that you know that you become an anathema instantly, then I wouldn't encourage you. Number 3 is the process of your emergence. How do you become a leader? Is it through from what we call proper democracy, where it's by choice of the people, by the people, and not a select few, not a godfather or godfathers, not INEC, not judiciary, not, because when those people put you in power, you will become, responsible to those people. So my simple submission here is, let's emphasize the issue of personality and leadership. And then when you run under the process of your emergence, then we come into issue of promise. Now, let me respond to you on those issues of promise. I feel that despite the fact that we live in a chaotic, almost lawless country like Nigeria, where the rule of law is trampled upon, where we honestly are not even thinking about it, doing enough about it, there are things you can still do as a credible, authentic leader and elevate the quality of life, take people out of poverty, get them more educated, get them more cared for health-wise, and then also provide welfare and particularly security of lives, and create a competitive environment for the private sector to thrive and create the jobs that we're looking for, and make Anambra a destination, center of excellence in many things, whether it's industrialization, commercial, and trade, and whether it's agricultural processing, what is about technology and creating the next Mark Zuckerbergs of this world, or at least those basics of quality education and quality of healthcare. All of those can now be done because you're the right person under the right platform through the right process. And for telco and power, a lot has actually happened and is happening. What you find is that federal government has realized the issues around what we call commercial and technical misalignment. The system was designed to fail from day one, and now it's now being gradually looked into and unbundled. But there's still that lethargy to do the needful. If you are a generator, there are three segments in power in Nigeria. There is generation, there is transmission, and there is distribution. If you're a generator and you have a max capacity to generate maybe up to 100 megawatts, guess what? Even though you have such capacity, you may find that you're not able to do up to 30 megawatts. You know why? Because if it's a gas-fired plant, for instance, you don't have enough gas at the right price, because the price that you are meant to buy at is what we call domestic obligation, where it's usually lower than the commercial value. Every gas producer will prefer to sell at higher to other private sector than to the power generation companies. And so, and a lot of the gas is even being flared, and a lot of those issues abound there. So because of paucity of infrastructure and misalignment of commerce, you find that we are not even able to generate enough. And even the 30 you're able to generate, 30 megawatts, you find that some days you're told, no, you know what, lower it because the transmission is not strong enough to carry the load. And even when that's transmitted, maybe only 20 gets transmitted, it then goes to the distribution company. Guess what? The discos will sell and distribute, and maybe there'll be 30% theft. And so some of the power are not being paid for. Some are actually being used by the ministries, departments of government that don't pay. You hear that the military has not paid their bill for how many years? Somebody had generated that and transmitted that, and it's not being paid for. You end up with maybe only 10 or 20 megawatts being paid for. And this is the same amount that will now service the entire value chain. So you see modeling up of issues from everywhere. And by the time you bring in the licensing issue, the discourse will tell you, even though you're having an embedded issue, technology, you have to negotiate with them. And not to bore the whole world with these issues. What the government has done now is to kind of democratize this, where state governments can actually now do a lot of things on their own. So you cannot blame anybody now when you fail in this regard. There's enough room and window for you to do the needful. You can segregate Onitsha and provide lights for Onitsha. You can segregate Nnewi and do that. You can do all that working with the right private sector. And once that is done, you find that the rest of the other industries like telco will become more stable. And when business also is competitive, you find that there are more people on ground that will justify a telco putting the right mast. Because one of the issues that they have is if they invest in this infrastructure, what's the value for money? So when these things are usually very catalytic. When you get it right at the base, they begin to shape up in the future. So we intend to revamp all of these issues, accelerate progress, and work and partner with these guys who I have also known in my corporate days, because we're all friends. They all used to be my customers in Transcorp Hilton. So the connection, the knowledge, the drive is all there for us to do the needful.
All right, thank you very much. I won't actually, like you said, won't bore people with so much about talking about what you would do. There's actually a manifesto that I put up on the screen now. Now, is there a place that people can go to and have access to this manifesto, or they have to demand for it and it will be sent to them? How can people have access to this manifesto?
No, what we're doing right now is basically engagements and consultations. By the time we go into full declaration for this, we're going to publish this on our website, and we're going to share the links and all that. For now, we are just distributing them. And yeah, you've just passed my favorite place. And you can go up a little bit. And go up a little bit. Next page now. Next page. Yeah, here. Yeah, that's no. Come down. Yeah, well, the poem and the prayer. But that prayer, I want you to come down. Next page. Come down. Yeah. Anambra Chawapu. Yeah. That's my favorite page. Yeah. That's where we are calling. I believe for us to get this right, it has to be a combination of faith and hard work, not one against the other. There's need for God actually to come to our rescue, but at the same time, we must do enough. God cannot, kind of, I don't know, overcompensate the people who are not working hard, thinking well enough, strategic enough. You need to attract the grace by the things that you do, you say, and how you conduct yourself. And that's why we make this prayer. It's not a prayer to make Valentine Ozigbo governor. It's a prayer, Anambra Chawapu, which is inspired by Matthew 5:16. Let your light so shine so that people will see your good deeds and glorify your Father who is in heaven. Let Anambra have credible leaders, people who fear God, who would do the bidding, and use governance not as a tool to impoverish people and show wickedness, but as a tool to evangelize and draw people close to God. And that's what we intend to do.
All right, thank you. Someone is asking for a copy. His name is Patrick Okafor. He says, I need a copy, sir, for preaching purpose only. So,
no, well, please share on your, you already have a copy, share it on your platform, send to Patrick, send to everybody.
Okay, yeah. So if you want to, I'll put my phone number here, 647-989-2837. As I've said already, I'm not a member of Val's political party, so I belong to the African Action Congress already, so I need to be careful not to be accused of anti-party activity. But I'm willing to share this manifesto with you. Okay, so my number is there. If you want to reach me, I could get the number to you. Okay, so please, what I was gonna ask next is this, and before I do that, I had someone in the studio. I lost him already, but let me take a question from people that are logged in here. Patrick Okafor, he says, you mentioned some corrupt politicians who worked against you to support Soludo, now coming to regret their action. What is the guarantee that these people won't be bribed by Soludo to repeat it again?
Actually, there are two sets of people here we're referring to. There are corrupt people who may as well remain corrupt. And good news now is that we know them and we know how to manage them, work with them, and we know how not to trust them. So we've learned enough on this job. But I'm talking about genuine people who actually were carried away. Some have made a lot of open confession. Let me share two stories with you. Once I was flying from US to Frankfurt, and I met this gentleman on the flight. On our own cabin was more the only black person, and he came and sat next to me, and that was his seat anyway. And so we didn't really talk until we were mid-air. I noticed he wasn't sleeping, so I opened up a conversation. How are you doing, sir? He responded. Where are you from? He said, Nigeria. I said, interesting. Where in Nigeria? I said, Anambra. Wow, more interesting. What do you do? Says the lawyer. I said, okay. So we started talking about the case of Tinubu Atiku, P2B, and the rot in the judiciary. That was as a lawyer, it was basically expressing how disappointed he is with his own legal profession. So he went on and on and on and on, and now came down to Anambra. So are you interested in what is going on in Anambra? He said yes. He was one of those who spent a lot of money, worked so hard to make sure Soludo emerged. But he's so disappointed. I'm so this is a full of story, and went on and on and on. So I said to him, okay, so what's going to happen next now that you are disappointed? Well, he said that we're hoping that Labour Party can get an axe together in Anambra, because that's the party now in Anambra, and they have to get an axe. So what do you mean? Ask him a question. So what do you mean by getting the axe? So they have to give the ticket to the right candidates. And so who do you think could be the right candidate? So you know that gentleman who ran under PDP in 2021? Yeah. So he went on and started describing this person, how humble, how whatever, and he went on and on and on. And I was nodding my head. I said, okay, interesting. So by the time he finished eulogizing who Valentine Ozigbo was, without knowing that he was sitting with one, I didn't even say a word. We went and we started sleeping. And so just when we were about to land, I brought up my phone and said, if you don't mind, can we exchange numbers? So he first gave me his number and asked him his name. It's from Enugu Agidi. So I typed his name. And by the time he said, okay, can I have yours? I said, okay, my name is 090, blah, blah, blah. So what name should I say if I mention Valentine Ozigbo? He now screamed, so you're the one that's sitting here. So that has been the case and a lot of places. And what people actually said, and that's the second part of the story, that for them, they didn't really know who I was until the debates that we had that was held in Oka between Soludo, Anambra, and myself. And they discovered who I was on that debate. But for them, it was already too late. They had already started preaching and selling this candidate. So they were now forced to continue selling the candidate. And now, with all they've seen, nowhere. So I said to them, okay, if you know all those passion and energy used to sell us a wrong candidate, you have to put in more to make sure you remove that candidate. Anyway.
Yes. Let me ask you a very critical question. You said it, we know it. The Labour Party has its internal issues that it's trying to resolve. Peradventure, things go south. What is your backup plan?
It's an interesting question. A lot of people have asked me this, and some are not even asking me. Some are suggesting already that Val must have a plan B. Or what I assure people is that next election is not going to really be about party. So don't be worried about the fact that you're an AAC or any other party. Next election is going to be about candidates. In fact, that started changing already, even in 2023. Election of 2023 was really for P2B more than was for Labour Party. So Anambra will follow the same trajectory. It's already defined. And here is it. There's an incumbent governor that is running for re-election. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of apathy about his candidacy. And so people are realizing that the only way you can actually chase away an incumbent governor is for a number of people like mine to come together and galvanize the momentum. If you go in separate ways, it won't help you. It will diminish your chances of success. So, and for you to come together, the simple question here is, who is ahead? You've got to now build around the person that is ahead. And as of today, if you put any poll, my name versus any other person's name, you'll be shocked to see me in my 90th percentile. And the rest of the people sharing the remaining 10%. So I'm way ahead because of these reasons I've given. Not because I'm the best thing God has created. No, because of the circumstances that I ran for this election in the past. I could have won, I should have won. Some things happened, people are in regret. And with what we've also done in support of P2B, I was the most visible Anambra politician that backed him up. So that has generated and earned us a lot of goodwill. And because of all this, people who don't even know who I am, who haven't seen my face, are just saying it must be palatable. So it's on that basis that the election is now between Soludo and Valentine. Whether I use any party is irrelevant. It's not as important. I would prefer to use Labour Party. That's the party I belong to right now. That is also the party we have built a lot of momentum, have a lot of elected members. So whatever I would do, sacrifice to make sure it's Labour Party, I will. However, if we find that we're still embroiled in some leadership issue, that you can actually win the election and you lose it in court, then it wouldn't make sense to die with such a party. I'm not saying Labour Party is going to die, but by the time we get to a certain stage, maybe very soon, sometime in January or February, we are going to have what we call a moment of truth. And it's not a decision I'm going to take alone. I'll sit down with some critical stakeholders and ask simple question: if not Labour, where next? And so that we can all galvanize. And the beautiful thing is that the obedience, both in Anambra and national, have come out clearly to endorse my candidacy, irrespective of the party I'm going to run under. So for them, Val Ozigbo is our candidate in the 2025 election. And so if we see that Labour has issue, we're going to urge him to move elsewhere. So by the time we sit down with these critical stakeholders and move to a particular direction, we're going to raise the momentum to a level we're going to be comfortable.
All right, thank you very much. I want to touch on it's not a very, it's sensitive, but then it's not also sensitive. That's the reality. I know someone like Senator Ifeanyi Ubah was gearing up to run for governorship, and unfortunately, he passed on. And I know he had a base. I mean, everybody in politics has their base. So what would you say is the relationship between you and Ifeanyi Ubah's base vis-a-vis this election that is coming up? Who would you think they would be? Because now they have to file behind one of the prominent candidates. Could you throw more light on that? Do you know? Because this is something that people are openly wondering.
Well, in politics, you really can't say anything with certainty, with guarantee. Anything can happen, but I believe strongly in logic. I used to be called a mathematician at my tender age because I follow logic. Anything that I do must make sense, and I follow just simple, basic principles. So first, it's unfortunate that Ifeanyi Ubah had to go in that circumstance. He was a very active, impactful human being and politician. We ran for the election before in 2021. He ran under YPP, I ran under PDP. I came second, he came fourth. And he eventually won his re-election under the platform of YPP, then moved to APC, and has galvanized a lot of people, including his Ikemba Front as a base, and many other support groups that he has. But now let's get into the issue of logic. If you are a follower of Ifeanyi Ubah, whose mantra, ideology, philosophy has been that Soludo has failed in the Anambra and does not deserve to be re-elected, what would you do? Support Soludo or support Val Ozigbo? Your guess is as good as mine. So I know a lot of people who are engaging them, talking to them, because if I was an APC, there are also some other people who are running under APC. But the election is already defined. These are the two candidates. With due respect to the other aspirants, I know that some feel I'm being arrogant. That's not true. The fact on ground is that by also dissipating our energy, we're either helping Ozigbo or Soludo. And if you doubt what I'm saying, again, I challenge anybody, go to the poll and ask in the Anambra what feedback you're going to get will not be different from what I'm sharing here. So it's on the line there.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much. I have a gentleman in the studio who wants to ask a question. Mr. Jerry, I'm going to add you. Jerry, you're on. Can you go ahead and ask your question to Mr. Valentine Ozigbo?
Good afternoon, Dr. Chidi. Am I coming clear?
Yeah, but we can't see you. Come to the middle. Yeah. Yeah, we can see you. It's okay. We can see half of your face though.
Yeah, I don't know.
We're seeing the most important part, the wild bear.
That is what a lot of people say too, because it's there.
Okay. Go ahead, Jerry.
Thank you for coming, Mr. Val. It's nice talking to you. Okay. What I want to ask is this. We have seen most of these politicians from Igbo extraction kind of as prostitutes. When I mean prostitutes, they are not showing consistency. They are jumping from one party to the other. And it kind of shows that they are not showing us a good direction to follow. So my question to you is this. You were strongly all behind the parties that Ojukwu founded. And today, most of you are no longer with the party, either jumping from PDP to APC or to Labour Party. Having seen that Nigeria, right from the time, I remembered one interview that was granted to Ahmadu Bello in 1952 by a white journalist, where he displayed the northern hatred against the Easterners or the Igbos in particular. And it is very obvious today that both the Fulanis and the Hausas wouldn't want to cede this presidency to the Igbos. And some of you are still jumping from this pole to the other, doing permutation. And they have made up their mind that they don't want to allow the Igbos to come around the corridors of power. So my question is, after the election in 2027, which convincingly I am sure is not going to work out for the Igbos because they don't love us. So if you guys fail to get something out of it, do you think that we will listen to any of you again?
Okay.
Another question is this. Let me just unleash them now. Don't you see that you politicians from the Eastern extraction has done little in demanding for the release of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, who has made significant impact in the life of our people by his education? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Jerry. Oh, sorry. Your mic is off. Go ahead.
Okay.
Your mic is on now, yeah.
Thank you, my elder brother, Jerry. It's a privilege to talk to you And I sincerely appreciate you for the concerns you raised here this evening. And let me try to give you my own perspectives on those issues. First is we really need to be we need to introspect. We need to reflect more on the real issues and not allow certain what may not appear to be real to shape our behavior, our attitude, our actions. And by this, I mean that when politicians move, they actually may move for consistency and not for inconsistency. What I believe is consistency with values, not consistency with a platform. And so we need to be very careful in describing some people as prostitutes. What worries me is not somebody moving from one party to another. What worries me is somebody acting like he's of no value. You cannot even define a person. There's no character. There's no credibility. There's no integrity. Like somebody may see APGA and call it a party of Ikemba, Ojukwu. But if APGA has already been hijacked by some lunatics and criminals, and you want to stick with APGA to help to disrupt, and you know it won't even take you to anywhere, then I'm sorry. I won't agree with you. But if you actually ask your simple question, if you wake up Ikemba today and ask him, where would you rather we the Igbos are? If you don't know the answer, I can give you the answer. Because the whole idea here is, what is that platform that can help us, first of all, get our house in order? Make sure that our people, their welfare, their security, their livelihood, the standard of living is top notch. So we're comfortable. What is also that platform that can enable us play at a national level to create a more level playing field for the Igbos? And as far as I'm concerned, the trend since left as of today, Labour Party more than anything else. And thank God that we have Alex Oti in Abia that has demonstrated that indeed we can use a platform. APGA had a chance, we lost the chance. Some of us cried and wept and pushed for APGA to expand. You saw some people who just wanted to stranglehold APGA, and that's what happened. You know, all of a sudden, so those in Anambra will go to Imo, rip Imo people off of their resources, dash tickets to some wrong people through a very undemocratic process, and you want to clap because there's a symbol of Ikemba. No, that's not how I reason. I'm sorry. And so if I'm following a leader, and I suddenly see that that leader has lost it, there's no value, I will leave that leader. Now, when I leave that leader, you can't accuse me of disloyalty. That's the point I'm making. And also, there's another point I need you to also understand, sir. I don't want us to keep holding on to the past so much. We must know our history. We must know our past. But we should also be open-minded about where we're headed to. There's something I've said is, and I know I run a risk of being mischaracterized, but I'm going to tell you what I want to say to you. Because for me, once I believe in something, speak it out. In 2023, I personally had a paradigm shift. When I was born after the war, I was born in July 1970. So I wouldn't tell you I was a witness to this Biafra war, but I saw myself as somebody who was conceived in the war and born after the war. So I'm a bridge builder. I'm a bridge between the old and the new. And when I grew up, the whole story was how the North, the Yorubas hated the Igbos. And guess what? I've seen enough reason to want to believe that story, because when I listen to the likes of Onanoga and Reno and some lunatics, with due respect, you will easily come to that conclusion. But guess what? When you look deeper and actually ask yourself, in 2023, what really happened? How come there were even more legends as Yorubas that supported our push than even the Igbos? Who in Igbo land could be compared to Obasanjo in his support for P2B? Who, as even as a cultural group, was more visible than Efenifere and Padebanjo in supporting P2B? Who, in the likes of Dele Farotimi and David Hunde and co, and I can mention a lot of Yoruba. So now this is what I do. In every race, there are people who are transactional and there are people who are purposeful. So it's usually the transactional people that promote these hates, whether in Yoruba, in the North, and even in the Igbos. After all, what did Soludo do? What did Soludo do when P2B? So would you tell me that he was better than a Northerner? No, I would disagree with you. So when I go to North, I don't categorize everybody there as hating Igbos. I see some good people there who love Igbos, and same way we Igbos love some people there. So let's keep asking ourselves, how do we galvanize more critical mass of good people that can take us to where we're going to be? So this is my own narrative. I'm not in any way contradicting what you're saying, but I'm saying let's not overgeneralize. Now, that brings me to the issue of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. I have been out there to speak my mind. I actually believe that the government of the day has failed us. They're actually the ones who is managing all of this and becoming lawless, and unfortunately creating the avenue for the stability and insecurity that we're suffering in Southeast mostly. There are other factors because it's not one factor that fits all. Mazi Nnamdi Kanu was simply agitating. It wasn't even carrying gun. It wasn't killing anybody. It was agitating. What one would have expected is for the leadership to sit down with him to understand why he was agitating and not to go in the manner they've gone. So I totally condemn all that's been going on. I have made press releases about this. I'm not a sitting governor, I'm not a senator, I'm not a House of Reps, I'm just a private citizen like you. So all I can do is lend my voice. And it's only when I get there I can do the needful. So I believe that agitation is something everybody should welcome, sit down and dialogue. However, I also agree with another perspective that some criminals are now leveraging this agitation to condone all manner of evil on the Southeast. The kind of killings and insecurity that people, and sometimes when they do this for selfish reason, they hide under the banner of Biafra agitation. And that pains me. That really hurts me. We are all, I believe there are two options we have here. Yes, we have an option to create a Nigeria that is a level playing field, where everybody will have equal cohabitation, where we can showcase our best and brilliance.
Sorry, we seem to be having.
No. Yeah.
Okay.
If we push and push and push, and we see that Nigeria is not, coming to be, I'm sure you're going to have more people saying, you know what, we'd rather just stay on our own. But what we're trying to say here is, some of us may even join in leading this, this mantra that if in 2027 we see that Nigeria is still a place of impunity. And what do I mean by that? It's not necessarily that an Igbo man must win the presidency in 2027, but we want a proper process so that when we win, we win. When we lose, we lose. Not when we win, some criminals will gang up and deny. And by the way, I will also tell you, when maybe, I don't want to actually keep talking for too long, I feel that there are things we also could have done even in 2023 to have changed the narrative. But that said, it's okay to say that some people stopped us from ascending to power because of their hatred, but it wasn't. It was actually a decision of a few, and not the entirety of any zone, whether it's North or Yoruba or South or Southeast. It's just what criminals do when they gang up, they do their bidding, and some people will think it's the entirety. I know people who were far more passionate from the northern part of Nigeria, particularly in the middle belt, than what we had here in the southeast. In fact, they will tell you that the obedient headquarters was in Edo State. It's not an Igbo speaking place, but just to tell you that as of today, when Nigerians see quality, they will actually embrace quality. So let's keep, and thank God that we're able to showcase one of our best. B2B is one of our best. If it was a certain kind of Igbo man that was on that ballot, he won't see me come out to support anybody. I will do what I usually would do, introspect and know which side is better. My support for B2B was not because he's an Igbo man, because he was the best candidate on that race. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Val, for attending to that question. I usually don't like to take for granted when I'm able to bring a guest like you on my show who is very, very, very busy. You are extremely, extremely busy. So I consider this a privilege that you carved out time. So I do not want to abuse it. I really, really appreciate you for coming. I want you to do one last thing. As you know, in 2019, I ran for governorship of Enugu State. So I know what it means to run a campaign. It is money, 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 and a little bit more money. There's no way you can do campaign without money. So I wanted you to please let us know how you are raising money for your campaign, and for those who want to support your race to the governor to the governor's office in Anambra State, how they can be of support. I know you say you're still setting things up, so you can either tell them to wait till things are set up, or just let us know. Somebody entered the studio now, Chidi Uchichukwu. We are almost done. I don't know whether okay. Let's let me let Chidi just ask his question, and then you round up by telling us how people can support, and we'll close if you don't mind.
Thank you.
But Chidi, it has to be very, very snappy. Go ahead, Chidi.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chidi. Thank you so much. You know, I love you, Dr. Chidi. You give me so much opportunity.
I know, I love you too.
Thank you. Doctor, on my face. I saw you somewhere. Doctor, I like his name. Before I met you in person, I see you on social media. I'm like, who is this Valentine Ozigbo? Just the name alone, I like it. And then not long, I met you in the, you can recall, shows and everything. So, and we even exchange contact. So afterwards, I tried to speak to you, and you wouldn't respond. Even though I get all your updates on WhatsApp, all your going around the world, Europe, and everything.
He has to respond to thousands of people, so you have to forgive him.
I really took small offense about that, but
okay.
I hope you.
He's here to defend himself.
Yes, I want to defend himself about it, because I personally like Dr. Valentine Ozigbo. You know, Peter B. One of the things that we love about him, especially we the youth, is that he's very active. Despite his height, he attends to everybody. So I hope you will be accessible. Tell us how accessible you're going to be when you get there. Question 2 is, how are you managing your security in Anambra State as you go about canvassing? I heard the security is so bad there. So how are you doing it? And then my last question is, if you were to win Labor Party what happened to Abga? That's the last remaining Igbo party, and it only has one state. So if Dr. Val hijacks that, you know, I know that Abga doesn't have federal presence yet, but like somehow, you know, that Abga makes us feel that this is our own. Bianca now is with Tinubu, but we know that her husband was instrumental to Abga and all that. So somehow we see Abga. What will happen? What is it? Igbos will now align with Labour Party, or I don't understand how that's going to play out. So recap: how about and then what will happen? Thank you very much.
Sorry, I don't think we had everything, but go ahead, Val.
I can try to attempt the bit that I heard. It's good to be swamped in between two Chilis. Yeah, thank you, Chidi. And I'm sorry if you tried to reach me. As we were talking, I went to my contacts. I started opening my chat with you. It was a message I sent to you. And you replied me only once. Where you wrote, "Hey, my friend, it was nice to meet you in Canada." Since then, yeah. I've sent you multiple brokers, and I've not seen one message, one response from you. Why am I saying this? The truth is that I may miss responding to certain messages because some days it will become actually impossible. I receive average of 1,000 messages every day. As I'm in this call today, I may have received about 200 messages as I've been on this call. As anybody trying to reach me now, I won't talk to the person. And by the time I even start attending to first 3, first 4, first 10 calls, maybe there are some further down that I've not seen. So I beg you, if you message me once and I don't respond, message again or call. I wanted to see a missed call. Okay, I wanted to know how many times you really tried to reach me. I just couldn't even see one since that June 2024 that we met in Canada. But nonetheless, I want to apologize. It's not intentional. And so I'm happy we're connecting here. And I'll put your name on the priority list that when I see a message, I'll respond more. So now, I think that we may actually be getting a few things wrong. Today in Anambra, it's actually more Labour than Abga. Today, do you know really who made Abga what it is? It's P2B. P2B governed Anambra well. And P2B took that magic somewhere. You see, in 2021, I had a simple message for our people. And I said to them, okay, if you want to, we're all clamoring then, it's the turn of the Southeast to produce the next president in 2023. So, okay, if that is what we hold dear, because people know that if we're talking about not an Igbo man dominating, no, Igbo man being free, having this notion of we're no longer marginalized. How can it be that since after Nnamdi Azikiwe, no other Igbo man has been president? It doesn't make sense. So just that sense of we're not marginalized, let one of our own be there. And it's valid, it's a serious concern. But how do we get there? How do we get there? Let's be strategic, my brother. Forget sentiments. If you want to become the next president, if you want an Igbo man to become the next president, I've asked people over and over, will APC give you that? They will tell you no. Okay. Will Abga give you that? Genuinely, Chidi, I'm asking you, will Abga give us presidency? It won't. It's just in one state and it's held down, could not even expand to other states in the Southeast. It was once in Imo, they messed it up in Imo, came down to only Anambra, that they won't even allow another person that is not from Anambra to be national chairman. We've destroyed ABGA and the chances. You want to die with ABGA, you can as well do, but me, no. Let's move on and start thinking which other party will give us what we're looking for. And that's the space that Labour has taken. And that's why we have more senators, more House of Assembly members than ABGA. So what I'm saying to you is that shift your mind. And Soludo is not governor today because it's ABGA. I've told you all that happened. When the church were looking at between me and him who to support, they were having other consideration. Oh, Val is a young man, age is on his side, so let's try it once, three times. My point here is that he is just a child of circumstance. He got this just by this, chance, and it's not going to happen again. And that's why there are no senators that are ABGA, there are no House of Reps member, maybe. In fact, there's none. There's none. Not a single House of Reps member that's ABGA. So we are not playing national politics, and that's why. Unfortunately, if Soludo, what is interested in more is aligning with APC and PDP at the center, and in us thinking about how do we, take full, charge of our own destiny. So, my brother, forget ABGA, and it's going to show in this 2025 election, and that brings me to Dr. Chidi's comment, how people can help. We're not in a campaign mood yet. And so I don't use the word hope or support my campaign. But there are things that we do that will help to keep impacting and touching lives. And I use my foundation to do this. And that's why I have partnered with Naija We Can. So if you go to naijawecan.org, there are many activities that we are embarking upon. And those activities will involve voter education. We are hosting a number of events to prep people. And by the time we also get into pursuit of new PVCs, getting people to get registered, those activities we can use our foundation to drive through. By the time primary is over and INEC then opens up the window for campaign, then we're going to solicit support. And I have a simple theory around that. I'm saying to people, stop waiting for a candidate to be the one to finance himself. It is a wrong premise. It is meant to be democracy, government of the people. By that of the people, the funding should also come from the people. And that's why, and that's how it's being practiced in the civilized worlds where you guys are. In Canada, in US, in UK, in all the parts of Europe, is when Kamala Harris was being offered the candidacy of DNC, nobody asked him how much money she had. But within a month of being a candidate, there have been contributions of up to $500 million. And these are small donations. These are small donations, some $10, $20 on a monthly basis. Maybe in a campaign season, some may have given up to $200, $300. And we're saying, can you imagine if our diaspora community from the Southeast, who are way more than 5 million, imagine we're able to get 2 million of them, or even just 10% of that 2 million. That's just 200,000 of them. Putting $100 in a campaign season, that's $20 million. That will go a long way, so that you don't see a good candidate now embroiled with some godfathers that will give him the money and tie his hands. His goodness then diminishes. Allow the people to make those little contributions, because with those contributions, they're not going to be demanding an arm and leg. They're not going to be asking, must give me this commissioner, must give me this one, it must share some money with me, must give me this contract. Let's democratize this process. And it's not easy to do so in Nigeria because politicians are failed Nigerians. And so when a politician comes out to talk, they're always, and that's why I hate generalization. And that's why I was trying to preach that to Elder Jerry. Let's not generalize. Don't use that word politician, and therefore you won't distinguish between transactional politicians and purposeful politicians. There are people who are here to change that narrative, because until we change it, That's our game changer. We've got to do politics right. And it's by good people going into politics. And don't label those good people as politicians. And so when we find good people, we need to get people around them so that they can galvanize and create that momentum. And before you know it, no matter how much money these other people have stolen, because here today, I'm going to be content with somebody who has state resources, and he will brag that if I bring out 1 month allocation, it's not his own money. So are you expecting me to sell my entire family to mobilize the money so that I can pursue? No, for something that I'm coming to render service. We will expect people to mobilize resources through crowdfunding, and the platform is there already, but we're using that for our foundation. So I urge everybody, and we've created structures everywhere in Canada and US, and we'll share the links. People go in there and make regular small contributions. That just deny yourself a bottle of red wine in a week or in a month, and you can get something started. And when we start this culture, it's not just about Val Ozigbo. If you Chidi now wishes to come back to the race and we see you as the right candidate, forget that. Nobody's going to ask you where would the money come from. After all, you're not coming to lead your family business. It's everybody's business. We're here to take care of. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chidi, for that interaction. And ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our interview with I forgot, I wasn't adding Dr. Val to your name. He seemed to have reminded me. My apologies, please. At least
Mr. Val is good enough. Don't worry about
that. For the purpose, for those who don't know, Val is my schoolmate, so I know him already as Val. Forget all this. You people know him as a big man. I just know him as my schoolmate. So he is and will always be a lion, great lion. So thank you so much, Val. Thank you for coming. I appreciate you. And
Mr. Jerry, I will engage you further. I'm not sure. We are on a different page, but I think there are certain things I will share with you. There are different styles in these things. Sometimes one way is not the only way. Thank you.
All right. Okay. You can hear me now, right?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Okay, Val. Okay, so just one last word for your supporters and for everybody as we bring the interview to a close. Hello, Val.
I can hear you very well.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, some last comment. Okay, well, thank you so much, Dr. Chidi. This has been an incredible night well spent, and thank you for having Jerry and Chidi Uchechukwu on the platform. And for all of you out there, thank you for your time. Thank you for the honor of listening to me this evening. I am sincerely of a firm belief that after God's power, the next is political leadership. And it's something that has been our bane. The reason why we are insecure, we are poor, we are miserable, we are not as educated as we should be, we don't have quality of life, is failure of leadership. There's no way we can change that trajectory without focusing on leadership. Whether we are in Nigeria and whether we are in Biafra, we have to understand what we need to do for leadership to be done right. And to get it right means focusing on getting good people, people with conscience, people who have the right empathy, compassion, love for a fellow human being. Because if you don't love your fellow human being, you can't claim to love God. And when we focus on that, everything shall be ordered unto it. Of course, we have to pay attention to issue of competency, capabilities. And so what I'm trying to do is to demonstrate how leadership can be a game changer. I personally intend to set a standard of what governance should be. It's not because I know everything that will be done, but because I am humble enough to admit the ones I don't know, go to the right persons, learn them, blend, and then we get to our destination we're seeking for. So I want to show you that I mean well for Anambra State and for our Igbo. I want to kind of Biafra for Nasa annual before police and Nambia. We are not going to fold our hands on wait until the celebration. We will show leadership, and maybe by even showing proper leadership, maybe the agitation will die off. Because really what we are asking for is for a level playing field in this country. So I want to thank you all, and I look forward to more interactions. May God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Val. We wish you all the best in your campaign, and I hope as things heat up, we'll invite you and you'll come back to continue to interact with us. Thank you very much.
All right.
Okay, guys, so that was my special guest tonight, Val Ozigbo, governorship candidate in the upcoming Anambra elections. Now, let me put a disclaimer here. I am not a member of the Labour Party. I am not a member of the PDP or APC. I'm a member of the African Action Congress. But I know Val very well. And like I said, we were schoolmates in the University of Nigeria. And I've followed him. So when it comes to what he's capable of doing, I can vouch for him. But as the elections heat up, we are hoping to have an opportunity to also invite other candidates from the APC, from ABGA, from AAC to come and also interact with the people of Anambra State and Nigerians in general. On behalf of Dr. Erica and every member of the Worship Media crew in Toronto, Canada, my name is Dr. Chidi, and I want to thank you for joining us and invite you to join us next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.